Good afternoon. Harry Shen, Commissioner of Health, testifying on this 77, a bill that would allow mentally competent, terminally ill Vermonters with appropriate safeguards to request prescription which if taken would hasten the dying process. Most of my comments apply to the bill as introduced rather than the bill as passed the Senate, which, in my estimation, lacks critical safeguards. We could not support S77 without it. I'm here to support the bill as introduced on behalf of Governor Shumlin, who has been a strong supporter of and an advocate for death-delaying legislation. Such legislation has been a top priority with his for many years. To be clear, this is not a bill about health care or public health, but one that speaks to an important civil rights issue. One that is about choice and dignity for a small number of Vermonters at the end of their lives. It's an issue absolutely consistent with Vermont values, as was the historic course our state took with marriage equity. We understand and support the fact that it is not for everyone, but for those select few that fit the criteria and go through a rigorous process, it should be an option for dying Vermonters. On a personal note, I too have been a long-time supporter of this legislation that would allow Vermonters the choice of death with dignity. This is based on my own personal values and experiences in medicine for over 30 years as an emergency physician. I've personally witnessed and have been part of my share of deaths. It is through this that I've gained my understanding of the dynamics at the end of life and have come to accept the inevitability of death. I've seen it go well for all involved, and other times I've seen things gone awry with excessive pain and suffering. For the purposes of this bill, I can unequivocally state that physicians do not always have all the tools they need, or sometimes the opportunity to use those tools to ensure that all their patients die without needless pain or suffering. Given that the status quo is not adequate for all terminally ill Vermonters, this bill will afford a dignified choice to a small number of patients and a considerable comfort to a much larger number just knowing that it's available. To be clear, patients or providers cannot be coerced into participating. The decision-making and choice is preserved for doctors and patients to make for themselves together in the context of their important relationship. These facts have been borne out in Oregon, which passed a law similar to S77, as introduced by Citizens Initiative in 1997. Having spent most of my medical education and training in Oregon, only made sense to me to research the effects of the law there. I've talked to physicians, friends, and relatives, all who feel the law is working as intended, bringing relief to a small number and comfort to a much larger number. No one believes that it's being abused. I'd like to share the thoughts of my mother-in-law, who lives in Vermont. At 85, it would be hard to describe her as retired. A world-renowned neuropsychologist, she continues to teach, evaluate patients, and recently completed the 5th edition of her definitive text in neuropsychological assessment. She has on numerous occasions remarked that Oregon's law has provided her great comfort as she ages. She has spoken about close friends that have made the choice to hasten their deaths and conversations with her physician about the issue. Interestingly enough, her longtime primary care provider would not prescribe a lethal dose of medication as outlined in the bill, but would willingly commit to helping her find an appropriate physician who would, confirming the important point that the bill does not impose on the doctor-patient relationship. Neither party is obligated to take a course of action. About a month ago, I had a long conversation with the state epidemiologist of Oregon, Dr. Hedberg. She is a physician at the Oregon Department of Health that is responsible for monitoring the program, collecting the data, ensuring that the procedures are followed, and publishing the results. The department is neutral with regard to the implementation of the law, and if there are concerns about compliance from members of the public they will refer to the licensing board. In 15 years since the law took effect, there have been 20 referrals to the licensing board, but no disciplinary actions have been taken. And there, from her perspective, has been no evidence of abuse. She noted her concerns that neither the Oregon law or the bill as introduced provides the patient with important support and structure, the when and where, once the doctor and patient have made the decision to proceed with the end-of-life decision. It is based on my discussion with Dr. Hedberg that I would suggest mandatory referral to hospice to potentially address her concerns. Psychosocial evaluation support and structure at the end could be provided in the event that medications were taken as prescribed. She also commented that end-of-life issues, while inexact were inexact, and noted that there have been unforeseen positive outcomes in Oregon. There have been more robust discussion about these important end-of-life issues and more consistent referrals to hospice in Oregon since enactment of the law. I think I just looked at some statistics where 97% of the people who were took advantage of the law were in hospice versus a nationwide average of somewhere in the 40s. In summary, I want to thank the committee for taking up this important issue. I want to reiterate the administration's support for death with dignity. It's an issue related to human rights and ultimately to improve quality at the end of our lives. We urge the committee to restore the safeguards that were in the bills introduced, to build that most Vermonters and many Vermont physicians support. As you take testimony on this issue and hear what will undoubtedly be passionate testimony on both sides of the issue, don't lose sight of the fact that the bill only creates an option for Vermonters and Vermont physicians. No one can be forced to participate. The requirements of the bill as introduced provide essential safeguards that are necessary to ensure appropriate use and prevent abuse. As 77 is introduced, had several responsibilities for the health department. For the likely 10 to 20 Vermonters that would request prescriptions a year. They include the requirement to adopt rules to facilitate collection of information related to the process outlined in the bill, to require reporting by physicians who write prescriptions or receive requests for physicians, to review the medical records of patients with hastened deaths under this chapter, to adopt rules to guide the safe disposal of unused medications, to generate an annual statistical report on the implementation of the Act, including the number of instances that the prescribed medicine was taken by a patient but it failed to have its intended effect. The Department of Health supports these important provisions and additionally would suggest inclusion of the language that would require palliative care referral. Thank you.